discussion during today's meeting. So I'd like to go ahead and share my screen.
And this is just another reminder to go ahead and mute yourself if you're not muted, because I think we're getting some background noise.
So can you see that okay?
We can.
Okay. So I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Angela Bliss. I'm a postdoc at Oregon State University. Also on this call are two of my co-leads for the Early Career Forum, Kelsey Aho with the U.S. Forest Service, and also Chelsea Wagner Koch at University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science. We also have another lead, Alex Tate, who unfortunately could not make this meeting today. But to start with, all of us co-leaders of this new Early Career Forum have been involved with both US APEX and APEX. And US APEX is the United States National Committee of the Association of Polar Early Career Scientists. And what these organizations are networks of scientists and stakeholders who are very interested in polar research that I identify as early career. And the way these organizations work is that they primarily interact with their memberships via email announcements, using social media, and occasionally we're able to hold in-person meetups and organize panel sessions at conferences. But for US APEX, we have more than 400 members that are spread out all over the US. So over the last several years, our members have expressed a lot of frustration that you're a part of this large organization, but it's really hard to know who this community is and to find ways to connect and reach other members. For a lot of our members, you may be the only person within your network at your institution. So it can be pretty isolating when you're operating only online. So what our US APEX members were hoping to find was some sort of resource that made it easy to find other members in your network who are located at other institutions, with the hope that you could potentially develop new collaborations. So in comes IARPIC, which has this great platform where you can maintain a profile that makes it really easy for other people to find you, to learn about what your interests and expertise are, and also share information with each other. So we approached IARPIC and were able to initiate the development of this early career forum. And the primary purpose of this forum is to create a space where anybody who actively identifies as early career can share information and find each other. So we hope that with the development of this forum is that anybody who identifies as early career is able to use this as sort of a step to connect with the broader research community that's already present on IARPIC, and also to have a space where opportunities and announcements that are relevant for these early career researchers can be shared. So our membership is pretty much open to anybody, but if you are actively identifying as early career, this is a good place to be. Also, any other IARPIC members, if you're more senior in your career and you have information or opportunities that are relevant to early career members, you can definitely do so on the Early Career Forum. So over the last several months, we've been trying to encourage people to participate on this forum. So to help us, build this space and make it a more valuable resource to the younger or more early career members of IARPIC, we have some ideas to kind of help get this space moving and help to build it up. So if you are an early career individual, please join the Early Career Forum. If you are not and you don't identify as early career, please share this group with your students, postdocs, or any other colleagues you might know who are not yet on IARPIC. And also this goes for everybody. If you find opportunities or announcements coming across your desk that would be relevant for early career researchers, this is a good space to share that. And aside from having a space where you can easily identify people who are at a similar career stage as you, we also want to encourage members of the Early Career Forum to share their research. So not only on the Early Career Forum, but also with the relevant collaboration teams. So if you have any publications, reports, or data sets, make sure to announce those. And you can tag both the Early Career Forum and whatever your relevant collaboration team is. The nice thing about this group is also that you can search the member list, which makes it really easy to find people who have similar interests to you. And also collaboration team leaders. If you're looking for somebody to speak at an upcoming webinar, this is a good place to kind of reach out and see if you can find anybody to fill those spots. So that's just kind of a short introduction on what the Early Career Forum is. So we hope that you will find that resource useful. But to move on, I will move to who's going to talk a little bit about kind of what today's plan is.
Great, thanks, Angela. So to introduce myself, I am Chelsea Wagner Koch. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Maryland. As I said, I'm one of the co-leads for the Early Career Forum, but I'm also currently serving on the board for US APEX. So the purpose of our gathering today was to introduce everyone to the planning and development process for the next 5-year Arctic research plan, which Sarah will be providing us with an overview of momentarily. But first, we just wanted to give you some background about the role that the Early Career Forum has played so far and what we will play in this process moving forward. So initially, the idea for formalizing a means for the early career engagement in this process came about during a meeting about the 5-year plan at ASSW, the Arctic Science Summit Week, which was about a month or so ago now. And there was a keen interest from everyone on the meeting to have early career engagement in this process, but there hadn't been a formal mechanism for this previously, and we didn't really have something to already put in place. So this seems kind of like the perfect opportunity to use and mobilize our newly formed early career team on IARPC. So the primary role that we as the team leaders at least are initially hoping to play is by advertising and facilitating these opportunities as they arise and as we develop this process. So initiating that with this webinar today, making sure that everyone's informed of what possibilities there are. And then as we kind of work through this and discuss what those opportunities are, we'll make sure that the community is aware of them. We're also going to be able to continue to share information and resources through the forum. So making sure everyone's up to date through the process, and we can also help to point you to any of the existing resources. We're working closely with Meredith and Sarah and Kelly and everybody at IARPC to get this information. So if you want to reach out to them directly or to us, and we'll be happy to work to make sure that everybody has the information that they need to be involved. And one other point that I just wanted to bring up that has come up in these planning discussions in the past two weeks or so, that I think is just an important thing to keep in mind, and not just for this plan, but kind of the overall flavor of IARPC. It's just that as Arctic researchers, I think you all are pretty well aware that there are a number of different Arctic stakeholders and community members with different perspectives. And we want to keep those in mind and make sure we're listening to and respecting these diverse perspectives that are already out there and have been heavily involved so far. And that being said, the community in Alaska, different Arctic stakeholders have already identified certain pressing research needs in the region. And so we want to make sure that we're aware of these moving forward, and still want to bring in the early career perspective, but what kind of new tools or approaches can the early career community bring to this to help answer these questions and also help think of new ones. So, and also, hopefully this helps to kind of foster these connections. I know that as an early career researcher in the Arctic, we know that this is an important thing to do, but sometimes it's difficult to know who to reach out to, who to connect with, and how to do that. And so hopefully throughout this process, we can help connect the early career researchers to these different communities and find ways that help foster these relationships moving forward. And so finally, after Sarah gives her overview today, we will have time for a brief discussion about some of the potential ways that how this engagement could look. And so we've already kind of thought of a couple different ideas, but we'd also love to have a group discussion and brainstorm different ideas that you all might have of how we might be able to collaborate and pull together input from the early career community and help to kind of shape this plan. And so with that, I think we had one last slide, and that's just a reminder that if you are not on the forum, to please join. You don't have to be early career, but we welcome everybody to come and at least join so you can post in there. And then also, if you're not a US APEX member, I also encourage you to sign up as well. And with that, I think we can turn it over to Sarah.
Yep, and I'm just going to, we had a poll to see if people were familiar with these different groups, so I'm gonna just launch that and ask people to respond so we can kind of get a sense.
Thank you all for responding. I'm Kelsey. I'm also one of the co-leads, and we want everyone who's on this webinar to also be involved. So we've sprinkled in a few polls along the way to get feedback. Also feel free to drop in comments at any time into the chat or email us. All of our contact information is on the website. Thanks.
Okay, and Sarah, while this is, I'll just leave it open for another minute, and then I think you should be able to share your screen.
Do we get to see the outcome of the poll?
Yeah, I think.
Do you want to put that up before I share my screen?
Sure, it looks like we've stopped adding new answers, so I will do that. Can everyone see the poll results now? Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Thanks,
everyone.
and I'll go ahead. Yeah, that was good. Thank you. And while I'm getting my screen up here, I want to thank Angela, Chelsea, and Kelsey for that great introduction. And I don't know, there we go. And also thank you for all the effort that you've put in to get the Early Career Forum up and running. It's a model for the way you can use the IARPIC platform to connect, and we're really excited about the work that you guys are doing and the energy that you've put into it. So thank you for that. My name is Sarah Bowden, and I'm the Executive Secretary for IARPIC. And we have a whole team of people who are working on the development of the next Arctic Research Plan. And I'm one of those team members, and so I got nominated to do this presentation today. If you attend other ones of these, there'll be different people doing the presentation. So if you've already seen this slide deck, I apologize. But hopefully for most of you, this will be relatively new. So just to give a little bit of background on IARPIC, we're the Interagency Arctic Research Policy Committee. We're legislatively mandated, which means there's a law that put us into effect in 1984, and then a presidential executive order which created the IARPIC to be within the context of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. and we are chaired by the director of the National Science Foundation. We're made up of 14 federal entities who support research in the Arctic. So the U.S. investment in Arctic research is contained within the context of IARPC. Most of that research is in the Alaskan Arctic, but it is not limited to the Alaskan Arctic. So the federal side of IARPC, which I just explained, is just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. Most of really the exciting stuff occurs under the surface. Through the IARPC platform, which I think most of you are now familiar with, that's probably how you got into this webinar. IARPC brings together that federal side with the non-federal side, which is made up of the list that you can see on the left. And anybody can participate in IARPC through what we call IARPC collaborations. And so we have representatives who are team leads from the state of Alaska and from academic institutions. We've had in the past team leads from indigenous organizations. We haven't had anybody from industry, but there's nothing to stop us from doing so. And they collaborate with federal program managers to manage those teams. And we have a couple of team leads on the call today. Two that I noticed were Candace and Danielle Dixon, who are both on the call today. And there may be others, and sorry if I missed others that are here with us. So these themes that you see under the within the context of the logo, the health and well-being, the coastal resilience, the environmental intelligence, these are teams that are created to implement the current 5-year research plan, which has 9 goals, hence we have 9 teams, and we have a few sub-teams as well. But that's why you see those particular boxes, because they correlate to the current 5-year plan. The current 5-year plan will end at the end of next year, so we are in the process now of developing the next one. The next one will launch at the very end of 2021 and will go into effect in early 2022 and run through 2026. And it's important to note that we don't try in the Arctic research plans to cover all of the research which is funded by the federal entities, which I showed earlier, but that we focus on those areas where those agencies can collaborate to enhance their investment in the Arctic. And you can access the current plan on the website. It's very prominent in the top bar of the website on the right-hand side. So some basic facts about the Arctic Research Plan. It is a federal document, so the plan aligns with the goals of federal agencies who support research in the Arctic. And so if you dig down into the plan, you'll actually see for every, we call them performance elements, other people might call them milestones, there will be agencies associated with those because it does reflect the work of federal agencies. So IARPC plans focus on research, which will be enhanced through the collaboration of federal agencies. It doesn't address all Arctic research. So for example, you might not see a lot on ocean circulation in the plan. That's because there's a sister organization called the Subcommittee on Ocean Science and Technology, which tends to cover that. So our plan does not. That doesn't mean that agencies are not investing in ocean circulation and physical oceanography in the Arctic. The plans to date have primarily focused on basic research, but they may include applied research. And we're really welcoming ideas in research in any natural or social science field. And we point this last point out because we really don't have as much in the social sciences as we do the natural sciences, so we really want to make sure that that community gets heard as we develop the next plan. Here's a brief timeline of how we're moving through this process. So we have a set of the federal IRBIC body is chaired by the director of NSF, and she's left, and now we have a temporary person, so it will be a he, oversees this federal body called the Principals. And in September of 2019, they approved the development of the next plan. And as a result, we formed a plan development steering group, and that is made up of people from the different federal agencies, and they are guiding the development of the next plan. There's a small sub-team which is has developed an engagement strategy, trying to reach out to as many possible stakeholders as possible. And this webinar is one of those opportunities. On April 3rd, the Federal Register notice seeking input went out, and you're invited to submit your comments that way. We are holding a lot of public input listening sessions and webinars, and a number of entities are holding their own workshops to develop their own input and ideas on what should be in the next 5-year plan. That will continue through September of this year. I'm sorry, the Federal Register closes on August 2nd, but that will, engaging will continue through September. There will be a workshop in September to better bring together what all the ideas are on what the framework, structure, and goals and objectives of the next plan should be. That we will then take to the principals and back to them to get their approval, and then we will go into a writing mode, which will be made up of federal program managers who will write that plan. And then in around the middle of next year, we'll have a Federal Register notice for about a 3-month review of the plan where people can provide feedback on what's been written. We'll gather up those comments, respond to them, incorporate them if necessary into the plan, and then the plan will be released at the end of next year. This is the Federal Register notice, so you can specifically see what we're seeking input on. I'm not going to read it to you, but basically it's the content, what goals should we have, and the organization of the plan, what structure do we want for it. And then finally, current opportunities to contribute are through the Federal Register notice. And then also you can see a number of items here, other ways that you can contribute. Ideas that are generated during this webinar will be forwarded and inserted into the ideas that have been coming out of listening sessions. And I'd encourage you to go, because everything that I've covered, including the slide deck, is on the website that you see at the bottom. An easy way to get to that website is not to try to copy it down, although Meredith can put it in the chat box, but is on the home page of the website. If you click on the Arctic Research Plan, there's a link from that page to take you to this page where there is a lot of information. And we're just exceedingly lucky that Dr. Nakush Carlo is the Plan Development Director. She's working with the Plan Development Steering Group, and she'd be happy to entertain any questions that you have, along with Meredith, who's heading up our engagement task force, our engagement activities, and their email addresses are here. I think that that's it, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but there's a lot of other people here who can also answer questions if you have any.
I would just quickly add that I think Kelsey has another poll about the different goals or teams, and just to kind of gauge the interest of where everybody's at with what they're interested in. Kelsey, did you want to?
Yeah, that's true, Chelsea. So there is another poll. It should be showing up for you pretty soon. These are those 9 different collaboration groups that were in the bottom of the iceberg that was showing a minute ago. And I believe you should be able to select more than one. You may already be involved in one or more of these groups, but we just kind of wanted to see who from these groups, which of these groups were well represented and which groups maybe we could do more engagement with. There was not early career representatives on the call.
Okay, I'll give it about another 15 seconds.
Yeah, are you able to see the number of people that have responded?
Yes. So we've got 53 out of 58. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll and share the results here.
Okay, well, they're all represented. I hope some of you went there and just selected all. Well, great.
Great. Well, I guess if anybody has any general questions real quick about for Sarah, otherwise we can kind of start discussing a little bit the process. So I suppose we could go in the order of the timeline, the way things are working, and starting with, we're in the development phase now, and so currently an action that we could get in on is with the input for the Federal Register notice. So I guess a couple ways that we've talked about how this could work is obviously you could independently go by yourself and provide your own input. Alternatively, we could potentially coordinate some sort of response from the early career community, from everyone that's here today, and or as I mentioned, these different listening sessions. Perhaps we could coordinate a listening session for this group to give everybody some time to look it over and think about what they might be able to contribute, and then coordinate some responses by that means. Or and then another way that was mentioned was that that there were different entities that were also coordinating responses. I think you meant maybe there was like NOAA, a couple NOAA labs that were doing something like that. So I don't know if there's any ideas of different entities that people might be involved with, where there might be an opportunity to coordinate some responses to the group elsewhere. Does anyone have any thoughts or preferences or concerns about those different approaches, or what might get you the most engaged? I mean, would you be more willing to do something independently, or would you rather work amongst this group that we're forming to coordinate some input?
Yeah, that's a good question, Chelsea. Hopefully people want to be engaged with the group, and that's why they're here. I was thinking for folks that are new to IARPIC or that are new to this early career forum that's through IARPIC and also partnered with US APEX, a good first step would be, if you're signed up on IARPIC, to start attending. A lot of them have monthly collaboration group meetings, and I always find that that's a great way to see who else is involved. And then you can begin to make those one-on-one relationships with people that are in the group and see what sort of action they're taking. That could be a good first step. Otherwise, you may already have contacts, or it could be useful now in this group. If you have a specific interest, you could put it in the chat and maybe you can find people in this group that you could be collaborating with.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kelsey. And Meredith or Sarah, I don't know if either of you can speak to what the other collaboration teams are planning, but is each team planning to coordinate input?
Yes, that is, that's the current thinking. I think each team is approaching it a little differently. So for example, the Coastal Resilience collaboration team is instituting like monthly updates on each of their meetings, just letting their community know where we are in the process and how to get involved. They're doing that because their community is, a lot of them are like from Alaska or are more closely associated with Alaska Native communities. So they want to take that opportunity to really share that information. Other teams, Florentine is on the call with the Glaciers and Sea Level team. They're having a little bit of a different approach. They're, I think, planning to post like suggested updates to their current goal and chapter in the plan, and maybe have more discussion about that. So it varies depending on the team, but all teams will be offering some type of way to engage through their team, and that is more subject specific than this call, which like based on the last poll, there's a lot of different interests here.
Yeah, and I just also wanted to add that if you are new to a team, or maybe you've been involved with one team, but now you're interested in another one, or you have multiple interests, most of the teams record their monthly meetings, and you can find them on the IARPC YouTube page, or you can just go through the IARPC collaboration page and find those recordings and the notes. So if you want to get caught up or kind of see how they've been interacting with the plan up to this point, you can also go through and see some of those recordings and get caught up.
And one other point that the Early Career Forum was intended to do was to encourage more participation from those IARPC members who are early career, who you may have joined a team, or you may be on IARPC, but you don't necessarily feel comfortable joining the monthly calls. So hopefully, if anything, you take from this that as an invitation to get more involved with the collaboration team meetings, and particularly those that are about the 5-year Arctic research plan, and make sure that we get more early career participants in on those calls. So if that's the one way that you feel comfortable doing so, I think that would be great as well.
And if there are team leaders on the call who have specific suggestions for this group on how early career might be involved with their team, you can think about that and type it in the chat or let us know.
Meredith, this is Danielle Dixon. Do you mind if I jump in real quick?
Please.
So I just wanted to let folks know, because I think, at least for our team, we have some folks that are new to engaging. I'm really excited to see so many of you here. If you look at the iarpiccollaborations.org website, you can see for each team we have what are called performance elements. So if you go to the marine ecosystems team, you can see all of our quote performance elements. And there, what we do is for each of those elements, we then track progress in terms of what research is being done to address those elements. And then when we write the next 5-year plan, we look at what has been done, and we look at how those may need to evolve to set some priorities for the next 5 years. So I encourage you, no matter what your discipline is to look at the performance elements that are listed there, and see, number one, if you're already doing work that contributes to addressing it, make sure we're capturing that. And then if you are doing, if you don't see a home for the important research you're doing in those performance elements, that's another opportunity to provide input about, where is this field going? What do we need to be thinking about for the coming 5 years? And one other thing I wanted to mention is our team leaders have a workshop every year. We're going to have another one this July. And one of the main focuses of our workshop is to think about how, like for myself, for the marine ecosystems team, I think about what sort of cross-cutting work should be done across collaboration teams. So how can we work together across teams to get at more of that Earth system understanding? So how do we connect what's going on with the atmosphere group to what's going on with the marine ecosystems group and the sea ice group to get to more of that Earth systems understanding? And one of the things we've been focusing on for the last couple of years, for example, with the marine team, is how do we encourage engagement between the modeling community and the folks that are collecting observations out in the field to really strengthen that interface so that the field data is really informing models and we can improve our modeling capacity. So think about things like that as well, and where you see the field going over the next 5 years and how you see opportunities for us to create some elements that really help us get there. Thanks so much.
Great. So I guess one other possible opportunity was involving the planned workshops in September. I know we kind of chatted about these before in building up to this webinar, but whether those I guess originally would be in person, but given the current situation that we're in, that those most likely would be virtual this year. I guess, I don't know if that's still up in the air, but if it is virtual, is that allowing a greater opportunity to allow everyone that's here today to get more involved in that? And if it is in person, I don't know if anyone here, would you be interested in, I believe it will take place in Washington, DC. Is there any mechanism for participants to join at an in-person or virtual workshop? And will those be broken up by team as well?
So I'll jump in here and try to answer some of those questions. And then I also have a question back to this forum. The workshop is currently planned as an in-person workshop in DC, September 16th and 17th. There is a plan that in about a month or maybe about 6 weeks, we'll make a decision about whether that workshop is going to be held virtually. If it's held virtually, it will be over 4 days from the 14th to the 17th, with each day being a 4.5-hour session with a 30-minute break in the middle. What I would say is that the participation in the workshop is still evolving depending on whether it's in person or it's virtual. And so I can't answer the question, but I can tell you that as the workshop team is developing their thinking about the workshop, one of the important considerations is across fields of research, across where people are located, ensuring that we have good participation from Alaska, inclusion of Alaska Native voices, inclusion of early career scientists, and a good distribution, male-female distribution. So that the early career science perspective is valued and will want to be heard and will be included in the workshop. What that will look like, I do not know at this point. But I certainly think if people are interested in it, letting Meredith, well, actually letting Chelsea, Angela, and Kelsey know so that they can think about providing some input and advice to the workshop organizers about how you would want to ensure that there would be good early career science participation in that workshop. My question back to you, I'll answer any questions about the workshop that anybody has, and then I have a question for you. Okay. If you do, you can drop your questions into the chat box. My question back to you is that, you know, this is a unique space that you have, and I think a unique voice that a lot of organizations are trying very hard to ensure that you get that voice heard in a way that's really meaningful. And I think it's this is an opportunity for you to say, structurally, what are some things that could be built into the next plan that would ensure that not just that you're heard in the development of this plan, but in the implementation and how it moves forward. You know, it's hard being an early career scientist, and there's so many competing demands on your time, and depending on where you are, trying to get dissertations out the door, and you know, it's just get published, and it's just a really difficult space. So are there tools that we could be using? Are there other things that we could be doing within the IARPIC space to ensure that the wonderful skill set and vision that you bring to the future of Arctic research is actually getting heard? And I think this forum is one of those tools, but what else is out there? I think thinking about that and providing some advice to us about that would be really valuable.
Thanks, Sarah. I have a question. Can you possibly go back to that final slide that had the different ways for involvement in the plan? Oh yeah, that current opportunities. Okay, so there are a lot of opportunities on here. If I could, I would make this would have been a question to see which one of these options you all are most interested in. But if people could right now, if one of these speaks to you, can you type that into the chat and ask for the workshop if people are interested in that? Or if you're specifically interested in one of these but you're not sure how to move forward, then you can either put that in the chat, or you can message me or Chelsea or Angela specifically if you don't want to announce it to the whole group, or you can email us. I'm going to drop my email right now into the chat. But we're really curious which ones people are interested in and that they want to move forward or have more questions. We also may not have the answers, but we can go back to Sarah and get more answers. So while you all are looking through this list of these different opportunities to contribute, I was looking at the last one there, Sarah, and I was wondering if you could explain the strategic plans for communities and organizations. Like, what sort of plans are you looking for? I think about this because last year I put together like 400 different climate plans from across the state from communities and boroughs, but I'm not sure how that would be relevant or what you're looking for exactly.
Well, gosh, that sounds like it would be very relevant. So yeah, definitely provide it. So what we're trying to do is pull together. We know that a lot of regional organizations in Alaska, Native organizations, ICC has a number of papers that they've done around specific topics. Many federal agencies have strategic plans that include Alaska in them. The U.S. Global Change Research Program has the National Climate Assessment, which has an Arctic chapter. So we're gathering all of these, and beginning next week, we will begin a synthesis of these to try to, what these do is inform us about what organizations already think is important. And we'd like to synthesize that so that it actually informs the overall U.S. Arctic Research Program. So we're interested in any kind of strategic thinking around either a topic, a region, an organization, if it includes an element related to Arctic research. And I think it is important to always keep in mind we are not a regulatory body. We are there is a very strong R. Arctic research is what we are about. And so the focus should, or at least there should be at least a chapter about research and how research can inform decisions around certain topics. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was great. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Chelsea, for cutting off your flow of the discussion. I just like this list. I like to have little boxes that I can see and know what the opportunities are. So thanks for sharing this again, Sarah.
Yep, and I put my email in the chat there. This is Meredith, and I am in charge of that list. So if you have something you'd like to add, please email me.
And Meredith, when I think, will you be sending out some notes or minutes from the meeting today that maybe we could add all of our email addresses to, so that afterwards, if anyone wants to reach out to any of us offline about any things that have been raised, that would be great.
Yep. Yes, and I'm going to, in the chat here, also put, just in case you haven't done this yet, this is the event for this meeting. And so if you click that you will attend, you will be added to the list of people getting updates about this meeting, just to make sure you don't get left off of any future communication.
And just one other thing that I probably should have mentioned, but it's brand new. Nakush will be sending, and it will be posted on our website and sent out through many channels. We'll be doing about a monthly newsletter about where we are in the plan development process. It will include all those boxes, Chelsea, so you'll be able to find them easily. And we're going to continue that the whole way through the process. So even when we're in the drafting phase, keeping people informed about where we are and what we're doing. Yeah, so that will be, and we're going to have an email sign up for that. So if you'd like to get it dropped right into your email, instead of having to go to the website to get it, we'll have an email sign up for that.
Great. Just quickly.
And just one other thing.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I just wanted to remind everybody that one of the great features, particularly if you're early career, on the website is that everybody's email is already there. They have a profile that has to be associated with an email. So if for no other reason than to get the 3,000 members of IARPIC, it's a good way to make sure that you're in contact with everybody.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. And another way that we can use the early career forum, if everyone's in there, really use that space to get a discussion thread going. As questions or ideas arise, we can use that space too. That way everyone, if they're not on a certain email, might be able to just see where the discussion's going. So it might be a good place to raise some of those questions. But if you feel comfortable emailing us individually, that's totally fine too. So one other quick thing, I just wanted to jump ahead a little further in the process to the coordinated or the review of the plan. I think you do an initial one and then you do one in the summer of 21 once you kind of drafted everything up. I'm curious if that might be I don't know what that process looks like, and if you could speak to what actually happens there, and if maybe that's an opportunity where we can have a coordinated review process and make sure that early career individuals are, at least if they don't feel comfortable getting involved in any of the input but want to be involved in maybe the review once it's been put together, perhaps that's something that could be done.
Yeah, so it's a good question, Chelsea. I don't have the timeline, the exact date that it would come out, and timelines will move anyway, but it probably will be about a year from now. I guess in April or May that it will come out. And it will be a fully drafted document. It will include the executive summary, it will include the appendices, and it is the final opportunity to provide input on the plan, and based on what happened with the last two, we expect that we'll receive hundreds of comments, and depending on the types of comments that come in, those will go back to the drafting teams for them to think about and assess and make changes where they can. And then, so I think putting together a small team that wants to read through the document and consider suggested changes, and then using the forum as an opportunity to share that input that you're going to provide, and then providing it would be a very appropriate way to proceed. And I will add that we will again have a fairly robust engagement piece to that, with a lot of webinars and to explain what is in the plan, and so people can ask questions as well.
Great. So we're coming close to our end time here. So I don't know if anybody at this point, before we kind of wrap up and summarize kind of what these potential opportunities might look like, does anyone have any questions about any of this process or the Early Career Forum or anything at all that you'd like to bring up? So I suppose then it sounds like as of right now, the best way that we can move forward is that, you know, encourage everyone to look into the collaboration teams that they've already signed up for, or if you haven't done so yet, sign up for those, join those teams. And we can try and also maybe work with the collaboration team leaders to find out kind of what their individual plans are for coordinating those responses, and then maybe let you all know, and we can kind of disseminate that information through the Early Career Forum, and so that at least people can get involved in a specific team that they're comfortable with, and with where you aren't just the early career team, you're mixed in with the rest of the group. That might be one way to do that. And so really just initially focusing on this opportunity up through August 2nd to provide input for the Federal Register notice. Also encourage everybody to, like Danielle said, to go to those collaboration teams that you are interested in and look at those performance elements to kind of get some ideas about what's been done and what is perhaps still lacking or where it could go. And we'll keep looking in and keep everybody updated about the possibility of the workshops. And if there's some way that, if it is in person, that maybe we can coordinate some sort of application process or something, depending on who's how many people are interested in getting involved in that. Perhaps that's something that we can coordinate with IRPIC. And yeah, and then as we move forward, sorry, I'm just getting back at my notes. So this monthly newsletter seems like a great opportunity to keep up to speed. And so I'm not sure how we said there was a way to get on the email sign up for that, but we'll make sure we get that information out on the forum to make sure everybody's in with that. And then further along, we'll think about possibly coordinating some sort of review team of the draft in the future, and then possibly coordinate another webinar, specifically like we've done here, to kind of recap what's happened, but with the early career in mind, and then maybe go from there to do a review. Kelsey or Angela or Meredith or anybody want to add anything to that?
Yeah, Meredith put together one more poll to gauge that has all those options for collaboration. That way we can really hope to choose that the next webinar addresses what you all are most interested in. So you should see another poll pop up on your screen on, if you were to collaborate, which one of these, how would you submit your input? And then if we do another webinar, and hopefully we'll hear from some folks, and this was recommended by one of the participants, so thank you for this idea for a poll, then we will follow up and try to get those resources out. And we will at least have them on the forum page on IARPIC for these different involvement options.
Yeah, and I'll add that if you find yourself with some suggestions that you'd like to see put into the new strategic plan, and you'd like some space to sort of bounce ideas off other people, or would like some support in maybe getting together a small group or other people to kind of review your ideas as you're submitting them, feel free to contact us at the Early Career Forum. Just make a post. You can start a discussion thread there to talk things out. But if you find that you need some support in any way to sort of help get your ideas out there, definitely, again, feel free to reach out to any one of us Early Career Forum team members, because we'd be happy to help you moving forward.
Okay, well, we're glad that we have not deterred you from participating in more public webinars. And I'll give my thank you as well. Thank you all for attending today. And I don't know, Meredith, if you have any closeout for how people can follow up on this.
Yep, I will post notes on the event page that I sent earlier. We'll also post the recording, and possibly if you're involved with the Early Career Forum, if you're a member there, we should be able to email you all. So I encourage you to sign up there. That way we can, if you're interested, that way we can contact you. Yep.
Well, thank you all, and have a lovely Thursday morning, afternoon, wherever you are. And thank you for joining us today.